my name's Peyton. Thank you so much for checking out my Patreon account. Today we'll be working on headstands and elbow stands. Just a word of advice, if you have any upper body injuries, say in your shoulders, neck, or back, this is not going to be the best video for you to do. So if you feel any pain and you're trying to do this, just take a step back and don't continue. Just so you're aware, I'm not certified to teach acrobatics. I have multiple years of training and have competed in this style, so proceed at your own risk. And yeah, just make sure that you follow along with the warm up beforehand. It's extremely important to warm up your back before doing any elbow stands. And if you're new, maybe you just want to do headstands today. So we're going to start with some warm-up jumps. In this one, making sure that you're jumping as high as you possibly can, getting a low squat in order to do that, and keeping the arms straight. This will really help you get high as well. You want to work through your feet here, so you can see me demonstrating there. You should land with your feet pointed and then going through your foot. We're going to move on to rib isolation, so starting just pushing our chest out to the side, back, choppy movements, and then going into a smooth rotation here. Really making sure that only your ribs are moving here, and then we'll switch directions. Now we're going to put our arms out to the side and move side to side, here trying to again just go through the ribs, and then we're going to go over to one side. In this position, you really don't want to cave over yourself moving forward. You want to go directly to the side. So keeping space between the shoulder and the neck, and if you want to, you can look up or you can look towards the wall across from you, whatever feels best. We're going to move into a cat-cow now. So we'll start off with just a normal cat-cow going through the arch and contract of the back, um, really looking up, breathing with your movements. And this is just a really good way to start warming up our backs before we go into anything too crazy. You can start moving from side to side now if you want to, or you can just continue a regular cat-cow, whatever feels nice to you. We're going to push back into a child's pose now, knees out, toes together, and forehead press straight down onto the mat. We're going to move forward onto our stomachs, going into some back bend push-ups. So here, if you feel too much of a stretch in your back, just don't go any further. Just go to where your back feels good. So pushing into this, you can bend your elbows only halfway if that feels nice. Just really working on warming up the back and making sure we have a good stretch and we're not injuring ourselves. So now on this last one, we're just going to hold the back bend. As you can see there, I'm demonstrating bringing my hips up. Don't do that. Keep the hips on the mat and don't look at the camera. I didn't realize that my microphone wasn't working, so I kept looking towards the camera to speak. Just look straight ahead of you. Now, if you've been dancing for a while and you want a bit more of a challenge, you can come into this pose, an advanced back bend. We're going to be bringing our head towards the feet, really working in the abs there. We're going to move into a seated position with one leg out, the other leg coming into the inner thigh, and coming forward to grab the foot, or just coming forward with as flat as the back of a back as possible. This should be a bit of a stretch in your leg as well as your back, and we'll switch sides. We're going to move into a center split here. So in center splits from this position, it's really important to make sure that your knees are facing upwards. So you don't want them to be facing forwards, you want them facing completely towards the sky. From here, we're going to go into a little bit of a side stretch. So again, like we did them earlier in the warm-up, you really don't want to make sure you really want to make sure you're not caving over. You just want to go directly to the side. Again, you can look directly in front of you or you can look upwards, really keeping that space between the shoulders. Another thing that's important to think about here is keeping both of your sit bones on the ground evenly. So if that means going into a little less of a side stretch, that's totally fine. And really making sure that your knees are again still facing upwards. From here, we're going to bring our legs in front of us, going into a forward fold. This forward fold is less of a calf stretch and more of a back stretch, so you're really thinking of relaxing your back over top of the legs. So this is great because we've just done a bunch of work arching the back, so this will really counteract what we've just done there and help the back feel a little bit better. Now roll up slowly, coming up kind of thinking vertebrae by vertebrae, and we're going to now get into a bit of an ab exercise, just one conditioning thing before we go into our poses for the day. So I'm not sure that these are actually called ballet abs, but we do them in ballet. So what we're gonna do is you can take the option of two different levels. You can have your legs down on the ground, just lifting from the abs as much as you can. So we're changing the arms, as you can see I'm doing here, front side to the back. And what you're doing is you really want to engage the abs. This is not something you want to be doing through your back, as that can kind of cause back issues later on. So just really make sure that you're engaging the abs and going forward, side, back, side. I've done a bunch of these in here for this exercise. So if you feel your abs working and you're like, no more, feel free to stop a little bit early on this exercise. We're going to do one last stretch before we get into headstands, and that's going to be wall back bends. So as you can see me demonstrating right there, that's the first level. You just go down to where you feel a good stretch. Second level, you can walk all the way down, placing the hands. You can just chill out here. If you want a bit harder or more of a stretch, you can go back and forth. However, if you feel any pain in this, please stop. If you haven't done these before, just go down halfway, don't go down all the way. And if you're wanting to try walking down all the way for the first time, maybe set up a pillow underneath your head. And I would suggest, again, doing these ones inside, not actually outside, so it's easier to roll through the foot, which is something that we want to do as we're doing these. As you can see now, I'm showing you to roll through the foot as you're sitting up. So that's going to help you not have to use your core as much to stand up, really just using your feet, and I'll demonstrate it again here one more time so you can see what I'm talking about. So now we're going into our first headstand variation. So this is just a basic headstand. As I'm showing you right now, you want to have a 90-degree angle in your arms. This is pretty much the position you're going to be in upside down. You can have your hands flipped either way as long as the wrists are going to help you be able to push back and forth. As you can see me demonstrating right now, you really want to have your top of the head on the ground. You don't want your forehead or the back of your head touching. That's not going to be easy to balance on. If you feel, you can kind of feel there's like a flat spot on the top of your head, so that's what we're aiming for. It'll be easiest to balance on. To set up, you really want to think about, again, this 90-degree angle, and then not having the hands out to the side, but either to the front or the back of the mat here. When you get into this pose, you want to not have any arch in your back. You really want to have as flat of a back as possible. So as you can see, going from that arch to that flat back can be a little bit difficult, but it will help you out a lot for balancing in the long run. So when you're setting this up, place your hands down, place your head, and really make sure you have that 90-degree angle in your arms so that you can really balance there. If you're too close or too far, it's going to be a lot harder. And you can just kick up, try kicking one leg up then the other. You might find that's easy. This second variation within the basic headstand that I'm giving you is placing your knees on your elbows to really get a feel for that balance. As you can see, I'm really straightening out my back when I come into this. So as soon as I try to push up, I'm straightening the back right there. So we're going to go into a yoga headstand now, which is a bit different, but in both headstands, it's important to think of your head and the two parts of your body that are really touching the ground as a tripod. So in the yoga headstand, you'll see it'll be your elbows, and the one we just did, it's your hands. This is what is balancing you. So you're pushing between your head and your hands, and that's part of what's helping you stay there while engaging your abs and really keeping your back straight. To set up for this type of headstand, what you want to do is place your hands one on top of each other. You don't want to interlace the hands here. And again, keeping the back straight is going to be way more important in this as we have less control with our base here. So this is a bit trickier of a headstand. If you haven't done headstands before, I would say stick to the one that we just did. If you want to challenge yourself though, this is a great one to do. So really making sure that you're cradling the head. Again, you want to land on the top part of your head when you're setting this up. So as you can see, I'm kicking into it one leg, then the other leg. That's one of the easier variations for getting into this. I would suggest if you haven't done this move before to do it against a wall. So I'll demonstrate that a little bit later in the video. If you want to have more of a challenge, you can do what I'm doing there, which is a pike. So you're just going to bring the legs directly up. That is a pretty tricky one. So that's if you've been doing headstands for a while. You can also work on just continuing to do this video and getting there. We can do things with our legs, playing around with that. Yeah, whatever feels comfortable for you. You can also try out a straddle, which I'm doing here. We're going to go back into the basic headstands now. So this is against a wall just to give you an idea of how it should be done when you're learning them. So again, really thinking about that 90-degree angle with your arms and having your hands facing forward or backwards. You're going to set up, again, thinking of your hands and head as a tripod. We're going to kick into this as our first option. So it's really nice to have a wall behind you so that if you do overkick, especially when you're learning this, you have that wall. So see, I'm just demonstrating there. If you want to get out of this so that you're working on straightening the back, really engage the abs. You're working more from the abs to straighten the back than you want to be kicking off of the wall. This is going to help you get the muscles so that you can actually like just kick up into it free standing. Whereas if you're depending on the wall and you're using that to kick off, that's going to be a little bit harder to get there with. So in this pose, again, you can do a few different things with the legs. You can try a pike. This is a really good ab workout. It's super difficult. You can come down and up with that. I like to do these as just part of a warm-up sometimes. And then you can do like straddles. Again, really engaging the abs here. That's just another good ab workout. So we'll go into the yoga headstands now, which again, cradling the head, make sure you're not interlacing the fingers here. Have the hands side by side and thinking about placing the flat part of your head on the ground and again, using your elbows and head as a tripod. If you kick over too much, you can use that wall and just use your abs to come out of the wall again. We can pike here. We can do a bunch of different options that are a bit trickier. So really this is choose your own headstand practice where you're at with your training, and you can progress into any of these moves as you. So moving into elbow stands, we're going to set this up by making sure that our arms are completely parallel to each other. Hands spread out, and you don't want your elbows to come out like I'm demonstrating here, then you'll just fall flat on your face, and that's never fun. So really working through your arms, you've got to have a little bit of arm strength here just to hold your elbows down. It's a nice thing to practice against like a yoga mat or a stickier floor, something that's slippery. It will be really hard to practice in. If you have something covering your elbows, like a sweater or gloves, this is not, that's going to make it way harder to hold that. So just make sure that you're on a surface that is easy to stick to. Again, just if you haven't done these before, I would really suggest doing them up against a wall, which I'll demonstrate in a little bit here. To set up, spreading the hands out, having the arms parallel, as I said before, we're balancing between the hands and the elbow. When you're placing your hands down, you want to really make sure that you have your hands spread out. You can look between your fingers if you don't have a super flexible neck. If you're doing this against a wall, I say to look at a baseboard. So you really want to have a full arch in your back, as I'll demonstrate in a second here. So I'm prepping. I'm bringing one knee in close to my chest so that I can kick up with the other knee a lot easier. So when I set this up, I'm really making sure that I have the space to kick and my one leg gets completely straight. And as soon as I've kicked it as high as I can, I kick the other leg up to meet it. And you want to look forward while you're doing this because that's going to help you get that arch in your back that you need. So you can see me trying to talk to the camera and doing that. It's not working because I'm not looking forward. Really make sure that you look forward in this one. So kicking up and looking forward, balancing through the arms, as I said earlier, and also through the arch in your back. So you can flare your chest a bit more or less depending on how your balance feels here. And as you can see, I'm just showing that when you use your arms pushing on the ground, that is what helps balance you as well. So doing this against a wall, again, exact same setup. You really don't want to have the elbows move out. That's probably the biggest mistake I see happen the most often is people's elbows just move. So you really have to make sure that you're keeping your arms there. Again, a yoga mat will help so much with this. Um, Setting up, bringing one knee in, kicking one leg up, and the other one to meet it really quickly. As you can see, I'm looking ahead of me. I'm just leaving my legs on the wall there. That's a great first step. If you want to play around with kicking off of the wall and finding your balance, that's awesome. So you're going to see I'm dismounting to the side here, which is not what you want to do. I see this a lot, so I'm just demonstrating that first. Don't go off to the side. You want your weight just to come completely backwards, which I'll show you here. So I'm hitting that pose, I'm balancing, and then I'm just bringing the legs straight down. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you had fun learning how to do elbow stands and headstands today. Give me any feedback you have in the comments, and yeah, thank you again so much.